Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow, with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. Broadcasting throughout the United Kingdom and around the world, we're bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and on our TikTok platform also. And folks, the best viewing experience will be found on our YouTube platform at youtube.com/UK A Force for Good. That's where you'll see the comments coming up. That's where you'll see the pictures that we put up and so on. But folks on TikTok, please do stick with us for the next hour also. And a lot to talk about tonight in our 30th Good Evening Britain this 2022. Folks, tell us where you're watching from, send in your comments, send in your questions. We're going to be talking about the new Prime Minister. We're going to be speaking about the energy crisis. We're going to be looking at the great activism which we did in the last 3 weeks. Oh my, we have been really pushing the boat out and we've been really flying over the target. There's no question about that. More about that. And also we'll be telling you more about upcoming activism, because we never sleep. We never sleep. We just keep on doing our best to save the United Kingdom every waking moment that we have. And so many of you are joining us in that great quest, in that great work of time. And at the bottom of the hour, we'll have our competition. And the prize today will be this nifty little fridge magnet that says Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee. Check that out, folks. You can enter the competition and this can be winging its way to you tomorrow. All you'll need to do is send an email to us at contact@aforceforgood.uk. There's the email there, contact@aforceforgood.uk. We'll be asking you a question just after the bottom of the hour, and the winner of this, the first person to send us an email, will get this nifty fridge magnet celebrating this year. And wasn't it so good to see the Queen, what's the official term for that, making the new Prime Minister yesterday at Balmoral. And that's the first time the new Prime Minister has been appointed in Scotland since Lord Salisbury back in 1895. Well, goodness me, it needs to happen a lot more often. And in fact, we would be very much for ensuring that that was a kind of rotational thing, that it was Buckingham Palace one year, then the next Prime Minister it's in Balmoral, and then the next Prime Minister it's in Cardiff Castle, and then the next Prime Minister it's in Hillsborough in Northern Ireland. It should be a rotational thing. There's no need for London to have all the British action in that regard. So let's hope, whatever you may think about the new Prime Minister, let's hope that it's a good omen for the Union that the new Prime Minister was appointed here in Scotland. Absolutely fantastic. And the Nats were uncomfortable about that. We saw that in their comments. Good evening to Paul from Kent. Always good to see you, Paul. And it was Debbie who was first in tonight. Good evening, everyone. Missed you last week because I was down south. Well, we were not actually broadcasting last week as it happened, Debbie. So you didn't miss anything, but glad to have you back in. Yo from Kirkcaldy says hello, as does Adam. And Alan Dawes, good evening to you, sir. And nice to see TC. Good evening, all fellow unionists. all around the world. And Mary from Aberdeen. I was reading, while I've got Aberdeen there on my mind, Mary, the people in the Scot Nats in Aberdeen are pushing out a magazine, or rather a 12-page newsletter. If you get it through your door, could you please send it? If you don't want it, could you send it to our office? Because we found this in the National. It's a special edition paper, sets out the case for Indy, an independent future for Aberdeenshire. And get this, the National newspaper has published a 12-page special edition paper in partnership with the Aberdeen Scottish National Movement to set out a case for independence. But what I find very interesting about this is basically Scottish nationalist propaganda promoted and created by this newspaper. Now, this newspaper is owned by Newsquest, which is an American company. They own the Herald stable. And so what you've got here is essentially American money publishing this newsletter to give to the Scottish national groups in the Aberdeenshire area. You've actually got basically an American corporation interfering in the Scottish political system. Think about that. Because, I mean, this is American money that's been producing, that keeps the National afloat, right? My theory, and it's only a theory, is that the Newsquest uses the National in order to write off its tax liabilities, because there's no way the National is making money. There's no way the Herald stable in Glasgow is making money. There's no way it is. So Newsquest must keep these newspapers just as a way of like reducing their overall profit at the end of the day, so they get less corporation tax. That's my theory anyway. And so they probably would want to spend quite a bit of money to reduce their tax burden on matters like this, producing publicity and propaganda for essentially the Scottish National Party. Is there a law against that? I don't know. I don't know if there is. It just doesn't sound quite right, does it? It doesn't sound like they should be able to do that. Anyway, just wanted to raise that point. Sandra says, evening Alistair and all union supporters. Good evening to you, Sandra, and to Rita. All the best to you. And to John, says, control UK migration. Theresa May signed the contract. Good evening, Robert, and to Catherine. Hello to what does this button do? Good. Who says, Sturgeon has been interrupting Douglas Ross with nothing. She's such a rude amateur. Weird how a warning was given to everybody when it was just Sturgeon being disruptive in that EU annex. And Sandra says, who saw Angus MacNeil's tweet yesterday about writing to the new Prime Minister, and he addressed it to Boris? Didn't he just? He was awfully pleased with himself. He put out this tweet, here's my letter to the Prime Minister. Aren't I clever? I've managed to write a whole letter. And I've managed to bring a thought together and actually produce it in a letter, all on one side of A4, and I've signed it as well. And it was Dear Boris Johnson, when he was intending to send it to Liz Truss, and he didn't even see that mistake, you know. So he's had a lot of red face today regarding that. And of course, Liz Truss was educated in Paisley, so that's a good thing. She's got some idea of what's going on in Scotland. And they're both named Elizabeth. That's right. Hello, Stuart. Well, talking about what's going on in Scotland, we have had a great 3 weeks since we last spoke to you. I mean, we've been busy, and we've been hitting the target, as I say. Back in 20th of August, we had another one of our successful Jubilee Street stalls. Let's just bring up a photograph of that. There we are. There was just the three of us, our two fantastic lady helpers one of them there in the powerful red top that she wears, and the other lady there in our blue British Together hoodie with her back to us. Let's see the next picture. That's us with our fronts to you, and there you see the British Together hoodie. Now that's available in our clothing store, and you'll find the link up there in the comments. And another nice day and lots of good comments. And really one of the things about this is simply keeping people's motivation and morale high. You know, that's one of the values of it. Yes, we do push out a lot of our literature. Yes, we do get a lot of people signing up to our petition, but it's just the happiness, basically, okay, that we get there is just from the public. They're so pleased to see us, and a fantastic supporter there who came along in fancy dress. She was off to some kind of Alice in Wonderland or something event, but she certainly coloured our stall very brightly for quite a while, her and her friends. Well, let's not talk about that picture at the moment. So that's what we had. That street stall. That was our 9th street stall this year, and that's great work there during the summer, and we've been blessed with good weather. More activism coming up, which I'll talk to you about shortly. But Lita says, good evening from Finland. Great to see you and hear you watching, Lita. And James says, good evening to all unionists, stronger together. So yes, what we also did on the just shortly after that street stall, on the Wednesday the 24th, Nicola Sturgeon was being interviewed in as part of the Fringe, as one of these Fringe events, and some political person was interviewing her in front of an audience. So we went along to say basically that Sturgeon is not Scotland. It was a good opportunity to remind the British media essentially that Sturgeon does not represent everybody in Scotland. Because if you're living outside Scotland, you might think that she speaks for everybody in Scotland, but we were there to say, well, she speaks for herself and for her party and for the small percentage of people who voted for her at the 2021 election, which was actually 28% of the entire electorate, so just a little over 1 in 4. She doesn't speak really for many people beyond that. So that was our message. Sturgeon is not Scotland. I took the megaphone along, and let's stick up the picture there. You can see me in action. That's our banners, our posters there in the background, and that's basically most of them were Sturgeon fanboys and fangirls, and they were there because they don't get enough of Nicola Sturgeon on the telly, so they have to see more of her, and in fact they're willing to actually pay to see her. That's how keen they are to see her. For most of us, if we want to see Nicola Sturgeon, we switch on the television and there she is, unfortunately, some would say. But for these folk, they can't get enough. And we said that, we said, you guys are the absolute hardcore Sturgeon fans here because you're actually shelling out 25 quid. And as somebody said, that's actually a very good blackboard at the bottom there, the best Scottish comedy. Yeah, indeed. So that was me getting into my stand-up routine, basically. But the copper there in the background, for some reason, he didn't approve, so he came up to me and he said that I couldn't use the megaphone. And so let's just take that photograph off. So that's me again on the megaphone at the start, but the copper didn't like it. So what he said was that I had to stop using the megaphone. So I'm like 2-3 minutes in, and he goes that if what I could do was simply talk to the people. So of course it's a kind of fairly blustery day and so on. I can't just talk like this. So I said, well, okay then. So I stood at the front of the queue and I was just talking very loudly at them. And as soon as I started doing that, he comes up to me and goes, no, you can't talk. You can't talk. Just stop. So that was that. But we certainly got our message out as far as the posters were concerned. And also one of our chaps, while the copper's talking to me about this, one of our chaps, Max, was actually decided to start speaking to the folk who were going in at that time, and we've got a video here of that. We'll just play that video of Max talking to them as they're going in.
Sturgeon won't succeed in breaking up our country. She won't succeed. You want to break up the country. Honestly, I've lived in Scotland all my life, and I've never seen so much bigotry from people like you lot, you who are Sturgeon supporters. I'm not saying you all are, but it makes me sick, and that's why I'm standing here holding this banner, because I don't want my country broken up.
Yeah, good old Max there, as he says, he doesn't want his country broken up. And so he stood in there while the copper was telling me that I couldn't talk. Anyway, everything went cool, everything was fine. It was very good, but some great photographs emerged. We had a couple of very highly talented camera folk with us. That's one of the great pics there. Look in at Nicola Sturgeon's face as she's coming out and she sees us there. She's not happy at all. And when you think about it, can you ever remember her being confronted ever before in such a way? I can't really think so. Okay. That's a close-up there. Sturgeon is not Scotland. Okay. And then what we did is, well, let's take that photograph down at the moment. What we'll do is we'll play the video. Now let me tell you about these video views, right? We have had 445,000 video views of our event across all our social platforms. 445,000 as of this morning. So that's almost 500,000 views of our action on our video across all our socials, across YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. And one of our camera folk made a really good video of Sturgeon. She came down these stairs and she went into the rock. She tried to get into the wrong car. And so our cameraman was placed perfectly to get the shot. And hopefully, well, let's play that video. Now, this video has had 145,000 views on our TikTok channel as of today.
Yeah, not so conspicuous to...
You're poisoned, Miss Sturgeon. You've poisoned our country. You poisoned our country.
When will you resign, Miss Sturgeon?
We want you out of power. Out of power. Out of power. Resign. Now. You're poisoned.
Somebody shouting "you're poison" there, and somebody shouting "resign now," while I'm in the background shouting, "will you apologise for damaging Scotland, Miss Sturgeon?" And that got 145,000 on our TikTok channel. It just went woof like that. Incredible. And there's been another a Twitter video that's had over 100,000 views from a different angle where you can hear me a lot better. And so we really knocked it out the park there across all social media, and we really made ourselves heard. And I think one or two people got a little bit annoyed with that. Certainly the Scottish nationalists were not happy, and some people got a bit jealous, I think, of it also. So it was a really good event, Let's look at some of the more some more pictures that came out of that. We decided after the event, after Sturgeon got into her car, we all went down to Butte House, and we stood there outside Butte House. That's me, and that picture alone has had 50,000 views on Twitter. So that's Butte House. Has anybody ever stood outside Butte House with a poster saying Sturgeon is not Scotland? I don't think so. Don't think so. Okay. A couple of our activist ladies outside Butte House there, appropriately dressed in red, white and blue. And there's another couple of our activists again outside Butte House. Okay. And there is our merry band of men and women. Sturgeon is not Scotland. The sun shone nicely and was good to us for that photograph. That's an absolute classic. That's going in the next magazine, no question about that. Good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, Paul. Best Scottish comedy, exactly. Let's have a look at that picture again, actually. Where is it? There we are. Best Scottish comedy. Yeah, yeah. Vita says, this is what she needs, is to be confronted. What did Sturgeon say to you? She didn't say anything, she just kind of waved. Vita Johnson says, GB News picked it up. That's good. I haven't seen that. Glad to hear that they did. Vita says she got in the wrong car as she was stunned. And that's actually true. That's actually true. Because she got flustered. There's no question about that. She got flustered. And that's why she got into, or tried to get into, the wrong car. Ian says it was the dog cage in the back of the Astra that she tried to enter. Why wouldn't the police allow us to use the megaphone? Well, a very good question. Very good question. Sandra says, very polite as always. Well done, Max. And what an absolute scandal that you were told to stop talking, Alistair. What happened to free speech? Free speech is a rare commodity in Sturgeon's Scotland. Alan says he's got to go to work, but he'll catch up later on YouTube. Cheers, Alan. Adam says, do we have any unionist demonstrations with much higher numbers than all under one banner? No, we don't. A Force for Good is the unionist physical presence in Scotland at the moment, in a political sense. James says it was fantastic to see this message delivered directly to Sturgeon. Catherine says, she said, nice to see you. Is that what Sturgeon said to me? Oh well. Good. So, really good activity there, and we really knocked it out the park as far as views on our videos were concerned. And making an impact across social media. And this is what I really want to emphasize here, is that if you invest your time and your energy and your interest, and some people invest their money with a Force for Good, then we will deliver. You know, we will deliver. We are not going to let you down. We will not fail. We will keep going on. We will keep keeping the British end up. That's our job. That's what we've been doing now for over 10 years, and we're no flash in the pan. We are a proven quantity, and we only keep getting better and more effective and more colourful. I mean, we are a really colourful organisation, and you see even just like our branding, for example. This is the new version of our T-shirt that's out on our storefront. We'll put the link up for that. But nice, powerful primary colours, you know, and so we're very colourful wherever we go. And the media will just have to deal with us. If they don't want to deal with us, they can't help but deal with us, because we're always there. You know, we're always going to be there. So we're never going to quit. We're never going to quit, because our hearts just are not going to buy it, as Frank Sinatra sang. So we're going to keep going, and we are determined to keep going, and we're always going to be here, whether some people like it or not. We're not going away. There's no way that we can be stopped. Okay? We're just going to keep moving, keep doing our thing, and keep being here. We're never going away. So this is something that I just want to reassure people of. You know, after 10.5 years in the ring, we've got a long career ahead of us to keep doing this. So long as we have to do it, we're going to be here to do it. And in that regard, I am making an announcement right now that on Saturday, this Saturday, Saturday the 10th, we are going to be in Falkirk, okay? Because the All Under One Banner Scottish nationalist group are having a wobble through Falkirk, a separatist slouch, a divisive dawdle through Falkirk. They've never been in Falkirk before, and so we're going to be there to remind them of the importance of staying part of the United Kingdom, the importance of unity, not division, the importance of solidarity, not separation. That's this Saturday in Falkirk. We're going to be there. Now, if you would like to join us, please send us a message to contact@aforceforgood.uk, and we'll fill you in with the details, okay? So you heard it here. A Force for Good will be in Falkirk, taking on, standing up for the United Kingdom, while the pro-SNP separatist shufflers dawdle on by, okay? We're going to be there this Saturday. So if you've got 2 or 3 hours to spare, and if you're in the area, please send us an email and we'll fill you in on the exact details. That's going to be a great day. I'm also making the announcement here that because we're never going away, we're just keeping on. We're going to be on the Royal Mile on Saturday the 1st of October, when the divisive dawdlers have their end of year march in Edinburgh. Okay, so we're going to be at that one as well. Okay, so 2 Thin Red Line events coming off. One this Saturday in Falkirk, and one on Saturday the 1st of October on the Royal Mile. If you want to join us, contact us and we'll keep you in the loop about that. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Now, it's the bottom of the hour. It's time for On This Day in British History. Because we don't know where we're going if we don't know where we are. And we don't know where we are if we don't know where we've been. That's why British history matters. Let's talk about British history and why it matters. During the late 19th century, there was a kind of cult of heroism in the United Kingdom, and the media, unlike today, were always trying to find heroes and heroines and would build them up in a big way. And one of them was Grace Darling. And I said the end of the 19th century. It was actually all through the 19th century. And it was on this day, 7th of September in 1838, that Grace Darling entered the annals of British history, entered the British pantheon of heroes and heroines. And she was the daughter of a lighthouse keeper. And it was early this morning when she looked from her upstairs window of the Longstone Lighthouse on the Farne Islands off Banborough in Northumbria, and she spotted the wreck of the paddle steamer SS Forfarshire, which had crashed and floundered on the rocks. And the ship had split in half, and of the 62 people on the ship, 44 perished, 9 were to survive in a lifeboat, and a further 9 which she spotted were stranded on an outcrop, on a rocky outcrop. So she alerted her father, and they were afraid that the 9 people would be swept off the rock that night. So rather than waiting for the morning and rather than hoping that it would be better weather, they immediately got into their rowing boat and sailed off through the stormy weather to try to rescue these people on the outcrop. And this deed caught the imagination of the British public to such an extent that she became a national heroine, and she came under intense pressure to attend functions and receive awards and open events and things like that. She was like a modern day celebrity, basically, a heroic celebrity. We've got a painting here of her famous event. That painting is called Grace Darling and Her Father Rescuing Survivors from the Wreck of the Forfarshire by Charles Darvilliers. Around about 1838, when she became famous for performing that deed along with her dad. Now, that's Grace Darling, British heroine. Also on this day, some British heroes of a different kind performing a much easier gig. It was a Force for Good's Thin Red Line in Perth on the 7th of September 2019. And this was again when the Scottish nationalists were having one of their wobble-bys and claiming, of course, that there was huge numbers of them. They claimed that there was 20,000 of them in Perth, but of course we had our secret agent in a particular location filming them from above with a fantastic video that we were able to count, and we counted them exactly at 3,160, not the 20,000 that they lied about. Considerably fewer, more than 6 times fewer. And we got 1 or 2 pictures from that event as well. That's our Thin Red Line there in Perth. We had a good turnout that day. That's a good photograph. Again, see the colour there, it's amazing. Okay. That's a cracker of a photograph. Note the blue Scottish and British hoodie there at the back, and also the Scottish and British t-shirt at the front. Again, you'll find that clothing in our storefront, the link which will be in the comments. Okay, and look at that lady there was pretending to be the Silent Klansman, and she's totally on our side, of course, with her kilt and her bonnet. And again, Scottish and British t-shirt, which you'll get at our storefront. And see that big flag at the back there that says Force for Good with the Union heart? I've got, I'll just talk about that in a minute. Okay. So that was today, our Thin Red Line in Perth on the 7th of September 2019. And I'll ask you a question about that in a moment, and the winner will receive this Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee fridge magnet. All you need to do to answer the question I'm about to ask will be send an email to contact@aforceforgood.uk. Now, before I ask the question, I want to just give you some good news. And that is, we're always looking to increase the visibility of A Force for Good's branding in Scotland and throughout the United Kingdom. This is something that is important. It's important that people can see a unionist presence. That's one of the reasons why we do our street stalls. It's one of the reasons why we do our Thin Red Line counter presence events. It's one of the reasons why we say hello to Sturgeon when she's coming out of Fringe events in Edinburgh. It's in order to keep people seeing that there is a British unionist pro-UK presence, physical presence. So we're always looking to increase that visibility and to increase the visibility of our amazing branding, which is to say this t-shirt and also that flag that you can see in the background. Okay, so we're always looking to increase that branding, and what we're going to do is we are going to order 300 of those flags there in the background, but that's a 5x3. We're going to order 300 3x2s. We might order 500 if we can raise the money, but it will be that flag, that red flag with the Union Heart. It won't have the website address on it, but it will just simply have the heart with the words "A Force for Good" through the middle, and we're either going to buy 300 or we're going to have 500, and they're going to be custom made, so it's going to have a hem that you can put a flagpole in. And what will we do with that? We'll be waving it at our events, we'll be giving it away for a donation on our street stalls, and we'll be selling it on our website. Okay, so that's the next big merchandise product which I'm pleased to announce. Now, to run those off, to get custom made 3x2 A Force for Good flags, we're not going to get much change out of £900. It's approximately £3 a flag for that. So we're going to have to raise the money first, but once we raise the money for it, we're going to go for it, and hopefully we'll have those before Christmas. But it was just last week something happened, and we thought, you know what, we need to respond by increasing the branding, increasing the visibility of A Force for Good in Scotland. And one way of doing that is to get a whole raft of flags made, and because we're always asked for them at street stalls. People look up at the big 5x3 and they say, oh, have you got any of those for sale? And if we could just reach down to under the desk and say, there's one there, mate, it's yours for a donation. That would be so cool if we could do that. It really would, and we'd be shifting a lot. We'd be shifting a lot of them. So, very pleased to announce that as our next project. Take a look out on our social media platforms. We're going to be pushing that over the next month, raising money to get those things sorted. Tomorrow we're going to approach the printers for a quote, but knowing we've got an approximate idea of how much it's going to be anyway. It's approximately £3 a flag. Okay, for the question for this, answers please to contact@aforceforgood.uk. On this day, 7th of September 2019, A Force for Good counted 3,160 Scottish nationalists, and not the 20,000 that they lied about. In which great British city were we when we counted 3,160 Scottish nationalists and not the 20,000 that they lied about 3 years ago today? Name the great British city that we were in, and we'll find a winner and announce you at the top of the hour. And if you've never tried it before, please do try it, because you're in with a good chance of winning. Great stuff. Adam says, how many people have we had attending nationalist gatherings recently? Well, in Inverness, which was the last one, they had 633. We're not expecting much more than that, really, in Falkirk. We'll see. Sandra says, lying is in their DNA. They're lying about how many turnout is designed to persuade people that the separatist movement is more popular than it is. Absolutely. And also to breed, to demoralise unionists who may imagine that those figures were true. And just to remind folk, if you want to get to Falkirk, there's trains from Glasgow and Edinburgh to Falkirk Grahamstown station in the town centre, because we're going to be out in Falkirk this Saturday. So you can get a train direct from Glasgow or Edinburgh to Falkirk Grahamstown, which is in the town centre. Sandra says she won't be able to be there because she's in Belfast this coming weekend. Well, enjoy Belfast, I'm sure you will. James Campbell says, as the late Johnny Cash sang, we won't back down. Absolutely, we won't back down. Now, talking about, I have an amazing letter here that I want to read out. It was in response to this chap. Scotland's independence debate is pure poison. Iain Dale wrote a good comment here in the Daily Telegraph on the 16th of August, and he's an English commentator. He works for LBC, I believe, and he actually interviewed Nicola Sturgeon. It wasn't at the one that we were at, it was prior to that. But he says about his experience, what the last week has brought home to me is that the divisions in Scotland over independence run far deeper and are far more poisonous than most commentators in England realise. Any journalist who writes about Scottish politics should do so warily. I don't think it's possible to be fully informed about what's going on in the undergrowth of the independence debate without actually spending time there. And in my case, 9 days was not enough. Well, that's certainly true, but at least he did spend some time and he did write about it. And one of our viewers wrote this article to him just to say thanks, basically. He said, "Dear sir, I read with interest your article on Scottish independence. I was particularly pleased that you pointed out the truly poisonous nature of the debate and the very deep divisions in Scottish society that devolution and everything to do with it has created. You are absolutely right that the great majority of commentators in England are either ignorant of or indifferent to the mess that has been created. In this they were greatly aided by clever but stupid Scottish idiots like Brown, Robertson and the late Dewar and Cook. When they were drawing up plans for the so-called devolution settlement, I wrote and told them that this would divide Scotland like Northern Ireland into unionists and nationalists, and that Scotland would become a deeply divided, rancorous country. I was told that I was being too pessimistic. When the separatists lost the 2014 referendum, the imbecilic response of the British government was to grant them more powers. They do not seem to be aware that while the SNP see it as independence we unionists see it as the destruction of the United Kingdom. You would think that London would be concerned about this, but not in the least, it seems. Furthermore, they should never allow a seismic and permanent matter like this to be settled in a one-off poll with a majority of one vote. The SNP have far too much power and they always exceed what they have been granted. I find it harder, though, to understand that you find Sturgeon, quote, one of the most impressive politicians you have ever interviewed, close quote. How do you measure this? If you judge it on her ability to spread division and discord, to make no attempt to reach out, to feign outrage and encourage anti-English hatred, which of course she would deny, then she is truly in a class of her own. If she is judged on the benefits she has brought to Scotland, she is also in a class of her own, but in a negative direction. Anyway, I hope you will continue to use what influence you have to draw attention to the dreadful state of things in Scotland and the need for a much tougher line with the SNP. Great letter, and so true about the much tougher line. And will indeed our new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, will she be able to take that tougher line? Who knows? Time will tell. Certainly, I've heard one or two comments from people who seem to think that she will actually be able to do that. But time will tell, as she's certainly got her work cut out for her. We will do our best to keep her cabinet informed about what's happening, and we will do our best to ensure they know the correct policies. Whether or not they will choose to implement them or not will remain to be seen. But we were heartened this week when a talking point got out claiming that the present government was considering ensuring that there would have to be at least 50% of the overall electorate in Scotland voting one particular way, voting to split up the United Kingdom before it could happen, that they wouldn't simply allow a one-off vote and a simple majority of one, that there would have to be what's called a threshold, and the threshold would have to be that it had to be at least over 50% of the entire electorate. In many ways, that's a kind of academic thing anyway, because they're not going to get a second referendum. But if they were, then that's definitely something that should be considered. And in fact, 50% of the overall electorate is a fairly small but low bar. Again, it's not that particularly difficult for them, that it should actually be higher than that. But what was interesting is the extent to which the Scottish nationalists went into complete meltdown about that. For the first time in a long time, they had been put on the back foot and they had to respond. And they were screaming to the rooftops about imprisonment, about being held hostage, about a dictatorship. And don't think I'm joking about that. You had MPs, SNP MPs, one of them said that we were being held hostage. Another said we were imprisoned. And this silly person who used to be the presiding officer, a woman called Tricia Marwick, she said that it was the mark of a dictatorship. How ignorant are these people to use that aggressive language to their supporters, to make their supporters think that Scotland's imprisoned as a hostage in a dictatorship? You know, they have no concept of the power of rhetoric and the danger of rhetoric when they come up with these stupid claims. And who are these people that said it? Pete Wishart and Tommy Sheppard, both MPs at Westminster. Long track record of using inflammatory language that's nowhere near the truth. Sandra says, yeah, 50% is too low, 70% is the least we need, and I would certainly concur with that. And Rita says, no more referendums unless it's to close the assembly. Paul says, Truss must speak in a conciliatory way but act firmly. Stuart says, do trains still run under the SNP? Well, they're running this Saturday, but there's been some trouble with them in the recent past. Cole says, an SNP MSP is coming into my school for a question and answer. What should I ask her? Oh my. Well, Paul Hadlow says, ask her what makes you proud to be British. That would be an interesting one, because she would have to say, well, I don't think I'm British. Or she would have to go, nothing. Or she would have to admit that she is British. It would be interesting. That would be an interesting thing. What makes you proud to be British? Are you proud to be British? Why do you want to break up the United Kingdom? Why do you want to break up one of the most successful unions that the world has ever known? Try to find what is motivating them, rather than asking them something about the economy or things like that they can have an easy political response to. Ask them something that penetrates their personality. You know, Nicola Sturgeon recently said that she's British. Are you British? And if so, are you proud to be British? Why do you want to break up my country? It's a good. Thanks for that question, Cole. That was a good one. And it's these sorts of questions that put somebody, that makes them having to think about something in a philosophical way. That's what's important. Please do tell us how that goes, who the person is, and if you do get a chance to ask them a question, please do tell us how she responded. Thanks, Cole. Kaylin says, is there an event in Inverness planned soon? No, there's not. There was a march in Inverness a couple of weeks ago from the Scottish Nationalists, and they had 633 at it, and not the 2,000 which they pretended. I just want to also talk about this article. Sturgeon can't be left to wreak more havoc on UK economy. Appeared in the Daily Telegraph on the 27th of August, and this is a powerful article. We're going to take a photograph of this and we'll put it up this week on the social media on Facebook. But what I like about it as well is he just talks about the Scottish administration. At one point he slips and he says Scottish government. But the rest of it is all just Scottish administration. Scottish administration is good. He's beginning to, we're noticing people using the sorts of language that we've been encouraging people to use for a while. But what he's pointing out is that under the absolutely dismal economic future that we are assured under the Scottish Nationalists, the whole of Britain is going to suffer. Okay? We are already painfully familiar with the way the North Sea oil and gas industry has been scandalously run down over the last 5 years, with the SNP bullying firms out of new developments, making the country dangerously dependent on imported energy and gas, and contributing to the vast bills everyone will now have to pay. Well, many of us have been saying this, of course, for years. On top of all that, many of the islands are now virtually cut off from the mainland, with rationing of food looming. The result, Scotland is facing an economic crisis that will be even worse than that experienced by the rest of the country. Surely the point has arrived where the UK government will have to say enough is enough, The country can't afford another few years of what amounts to economic vandalism. If a division of a company had run off the rails and was costing a fortune to the rest of the business, the chief executive would step in and sort it out. If a local council was over budget and driving companies away while punishing successful local industries, we would not expect it to be left unchecked. In reality, there is no reason why the Scottish administration should be any different, or why the devolution settlement Tony Blair agreed on more than 2 decades ago should be regarded as sacrosanct. If it isn't working, and it clearly isn't, we need to be straightforward about that. Right now, there is only one way out of the mess. Westminster needs to take back power over taxes, levies, planning, and anything which impacts on business. Of course, the Nationalists will complain, but they are welcome to call for another referendum on independence. The important point is the decisions that the government the decisions that the government in Edinburgh are now making will impact on the competitiveness of the entire UK, and UK taxpayers will have to pick up the tab. It is unacceptable for Sturgeon and her Green allies to carry on damaging the economy on this scale. Absolutely so true. Unacceptable for them to continue damaging the economy on this kind of scale. What he calls economic vandalism. And what a state the UK is in, with these different administrations all trying to forge their own useless policies. And, well, will the British government, the central collective government, be better? It's going to have to make some serious changes. And the first thing, of course, is to get us back on track with energy, to have energy independence, something that scandalously successive British governments have ditched in the name of their green fantasies. Utter irresponsible government that we have had throughout the United Kingdom for the last 50 years. And I can say that because I know that it's not like the SNP would be any different. If the British government does something badly, the SNP will do the same thing worse. You know, it's not like they've got an alternative, a better alternative. They'll just double down on making it worse. That's what the Scottish National Party and Greens will do. But so our only hope at this stage is that Liz Truss comes in and she totally ditches the whole carbon neutral, net zero, climate change malarkey. We have to hope that. But of course, we also know that it goes really deep with these people, and many of them have committed their life to this false ideology. False ideology, so much false ideology in the world, so many false stories about reality that we think are true but are in fact just constructions holding up the present world economic and social systems. And of course, climate change, the climate change lie is one of them, but that's too much to get into in the closing minutes of this program. Now, do we have a winner of our competition? Yes, we have a winner. Now, we asked the question on this day, 7th of September 2019, A Force for Good's Thin Red Line was out standing up for the United Kingdom, keeping the British end up in which great British city? And it was, of course, Perth. Good, so who has won our fridge magnet? Our Queen Elizabeth Platinum Jubilee fridge magnet. Paul Hadlow. Wonderful. Great stuff. Oh, well, we'll be pleased to send that to you tomorrow morning, Paul. Great stuff. Well done. It's a nice one, that. It's a nice one. That will look good on anybody's fridge. So, folks, always remember, check out our shop where you can get our wee book for the union, forceforgood.uk shop-1. You can also get this, Scotland Now, A Warning to the World, by the great Professor Tom Gallagher, the best book that's been written on the 2014 referendum from a very pro-UK perspective. And you can also get our magazines. And this is issue 5, which is our 10-year history, where we even list all the Scottish nationalist marches and the real numbers that were at them. And that's us at Perth. That's us at Perth 3 years ago on this date. Folks, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for watching on TikTok. We will be back next Wednesday. Between then and now, we're going to be in Falkirk. Our Thin Red Line will be standing up for the UK in Falkirk this Saturday, Saturday the 10th. There's trains run from Glasgow and Edinburgh to Falkirk, Grahamston. If you would like to join us, please send us an email at contact@aforceforgood.uk or contact us in any other way through our social media channels, and we will fill you in with the information about that. So folks, until next week, it just remains for me to say God bless the United Kingdom and God save the Queen. See you next week.